word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, we are going to be talking about Marauders number 22 by Jerry Duggan, Matteo Lally, and Klaus Janson. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the real truth behind the death of Hellfire Club member and Sebastian Shaw love interest, Lourdes Chantel, that happened during the events of Classic X-Men number 7, and why her death changed the Hellfire Club forever. And we're also going to be discussing the deeper narrative going on with the character Wilhelmina Kensington of Hominis Verendi. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. All that aside, let's talk about Marauders number 22. Now, of course, in the wake of the Hellfire Gala, we know that a lot of stuff has been going on. Of course, we know the mutants have terraformed Mars. They've basically taken over the entire Sol system, and they have made a lot of enemies as far as other human interests go. Individuals like Fei Long, who is the head flat scan in charge of Fei Long Industries, and we also know that we have bared witness to the death of the Scarlet Witch. Now, things get interesting here because when you go back to Marauders number 20, there is a conversation that is had between Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw that basically implies they're going to try to resurrect Lourdes Chantel, but this is one of those things that's a bit of a crapshoot because Lourdes Chantel, she existed during a time before Cerebro. That is at least a line that Emma Frost feeds to Sebastian Shaw. But there's actually a very difficult truth, and it's one that Charles Xavier compels Emma to reveal. Because at this precise moment, we notice that Sebastian Shaw is up and walking around. Apparently, this was a part of the deal that was struck between Emma Frost, Storm, and Kate Pryde when they came to whip that candy ass to get revenge on Shaw for killing Kate Pryde in the first place. Well, now he is allowed to be returned to his true physical form, no longer sporting the eye patch, much less bound to a wheelchair. Now, don't get me wrong, this is all fine and dandy. The real problem here is that Sebastian, he is dead set on resurrecting Lourdes Chantel. When he was brought back, resurrected back in his true form by Charles Xavier, Xavier even noticed this. This was at the forefront of his mind. But there's one major problem with the idea of resurrecting Lourdes Chantel. Chantel is ineligible for resurrection protocols because she never died. Now, we actually talked about this back during the video for Marauders number 20, so I'm not going to really go through all of the motions, but what we know is that when Lourdes had teleported herself and Sebastian Shaw out of the way of a Sentinel attack, she was killed by a harpoon that was fired off from the Sentinel that was meant for Sebastian Shaw, most likely, but it doesn't matter. A Sentinel just kills whoever. They're mutant killing machines. That's what they do. But that wasn't actually what happened. You see, as we go back and dig a little bit, and this is actually explored even more in this issue, but we notice that there's a point where Lourdes Chantel meets with Emma Frost, and we see that Lourdes has a black eye. Now, this isn't anything new, and I know some people are gonna go, oh, they're SJW'd it up, they're trying to paint Shaw out to be an awful person. Well, let's be real here. He was already an awful person. He is a terrible individual. We should know this. This is no surprise to anyone who has read X-Men comics with Sebastian Shaw in them before. And even going back as far as Classic X-Men number 7, which, mind you, this was a comic that came out back in 1987, even there, he was abusive towards Lourdes, oftentimes putting his hands around her throat, threatening to choke her if she even gave him the slightest bit of resistance on anything that he wanted. And now we see here that he actually was wholesale beating her ass. Lourdes wanted out. She loves Sebastian Shaw, and she thinks that he's a great man with great ambitions. However, she doesn't think that she can take any more of his abuses. So what Emma decides to do is, at the moment that Lourdes Chantel was seemingly attacked by the Sentinel, she made Sebastian Shaw see what she wanted him to see. Lourdes was not killed by the Sentinel. Emma put the image in his head that she was. Not only did she put this image into Sebastian Shaw's mind, but also into the mind of Harry Leland, also a member of the Hellfire Club, and a character we'll probably be talking about a little bit more here in just a little while. Everything that Sebastian Shaw knew, everything that he remembered about Lourdes Chantel's death is fake. It's not real, not even in the slightest. But one of the things Emma doesn't regret about this is the fact that it galvanized Sebastian Shaw, that it made him the man that he is today. Because at the end of it all, during this particular point in time, the Hellfire Club was not exclusively mutant. There were human factors involved in the Hellfire Club as well. Now, we also can't forget that characters like Stephen Lang were also involved in this and were actively using money that was being bankrolled through the Hellfire Club to fund the Sentinel program, the very same Sentinel program that led to the Sentinel attacks that we have seen throughout X-Men history. Now, what happened to Lourdes Chantel? Well, that's another story altogether. Emma decided to hook Chantel up with a contact of hers, a particular character who is a major player in the Marvel Comics universe, and that is the Kingpin. The Kingpin would help her find a new identity and bankroll her some money so that she would be able to start a new life away from Sebastian Shaw without being found, and it would make sense. If anyone could hide someone, it would be the Kingpin. Now, the Kingpin didn't do this out of the goodness of his heart. While he probably felt that Lourdes Chantel could potentially be an asset to him, he didn't want what Lourdes Chantel had to offer. Lourdes Chantel is not really the most powerful teleporter in the history of Marvel Comics. She's only a short-range teleporter at best. There are, frankly, probably 10 other teleporters that anyone could probably name off the top of their heads, myself included, if I deign to do so, who are more efficient than she is. What Kingpin wants is Emma Frost. He wants her ability to change the minds of others, to make people believe what he wants them to believe, no different than what she did with Sebastian Shaw and Harry Leland in regards to whether or not Lourdes Chantel lived or died. Now, we don't know exactly what it is that Emma did for the Kingpin, and she refuses to tell us, but she's unrepentant in it. She believes that she did the right thing. Because, once again, at the end of it all, it made Sebastian Shaw choose a side. It made him realize that the Hellfire Club needed to be more, that they needed to become more, and more they became. It was a worthy sacrifice. Sebastian Shaw literally took over the Hellfire Club. He removed any and all human elements from it, making it an exclusively mutant club. And more importantly, this put him in a position to become one of the more powerful X-Men villains for a while, but also just made him a threat in general. And the Hellfire Club is always, even before all of the Krakoa business, pre-House of X, the Hellfire Club has always been a force to be reckoned with, even if it's one most people don't take as seriously as they probably should. Now, where exactly is Lourdes Chantel from here? We don't know, but the next issue is called London Calling, so maybe that's where she's hiding. Earlier, I mentioned the character Harry Leland. His name comes up more than once in this, and there's a letter to the Quiet Council from X-Men character Bishop talking about how they're going to prepare for the coming of Orcus and the Nimrod 2.0. And one of the things that is going to get brought up is talking about how Harry Leland could be instrumental in taking down a Nimrod, even a more advanced version of that character. And the reason why this comes up, and you're probably going to ask yourself, well, what the hell can Harry Leland do to a Sentinel? Now, do remember that his power allows him to adjust the mass of other people and other things. And that is actually a pretty useful ability. It is actually one he used to help stop a Nimrod that was attacking them in Uncanny X-Men number 209. Harry Leland was able to slow a Sentinel down, even a Nimrod for that matter, and even at a later point when that same Nimrod had, for all intents and purposes, launched Sebastian Shaw into the sky, effectively sending him into the Earth's atmosphere to kill him. Harry Leland, even though he was literally dying, at that precise moment, he was able to use his abilities to adjust Sebastian Shaw's mass to send him hurtling back down at such a speed that it literally destroyed the Nimrod. Now, that is a very impressive feat because you must remember, Nimrods are incredibly powerful automatons. They are not to be taken lightly in any way, shape, form, or fashion, and it literally takes all but an act of God to destroy them sometimes, and even when you do, they're able to regenerate themselves. So you can't take these guys lightly. Now, it's also mentioned that Shinobi Shaw could be useful in this effort as well, even using Harry and Shinobi's powers in concert with one another to create a mutant circuit, connecting their powers to strengthen them and creating an even more powerful effect than what either one of them could do alone, and in some cases even creating an entirely new one. Now, all of that aside, it's even more funny when you go back and look at the fact that in previous issues of Marauders, it has been hinted that Harry Leland is in fact Shinobi Shaw's father, not Sebastian Shaw, because their powers are just way too similar. And it wouldn't surprise me if this were the case at all. But whatever the case is, when Nimrod comes a-calling, and trust me, he will be coming, they are going to be prepared, and Harry Leland has been bumped up in the resurrection queue, so we know we're going to be seeing him again very soon, likely in time for the Inferno event, most likely. The last thing I want to talk about this book, and I just kind of wanted to say it because it's such a somber thing to discuss, but during the pages of Marauders number 21, we saw that the Stepford Cuckoos had tampered with the mind of Wilhelmina Kensington. While we know that what they were supposedly doing were they were supposedly fixing Wilhelmina as a character, what they did actually kind of broke something in her, because what they basically did was they made her feel empathy. When Wilhelmina Kensington was born, she's been largely considered to be a sociopath. She has basically killed roughly every animal she has ever encountered in life, and it was highly rumored that she potentially killed her own mother, pushing her out of a high-rise window. Jerry Duggan confirms this in this issue, basically cementing the fact that yes, she did murder her own mother, and she did push her out of a window, and she also killed a bunch of animals. She is, for all intents and purposes, a very awful person, and right now, what they've done to Wilhelmina has made her freak out because she is now recognizing and remembering everything. But the problem with that is she's also remembering some other issues that are also plaguing her, and the Stepford Cuckoos, realizing what they've done, they realize that even though, yes, Wilhelmina Kensington is an awful, terrible person, she is instrumental in the Hominis Verendi, who have been actively trying to take down Krakoa since day one. But at the end of it all, the Stepford Cuckoos believe in helping others. They believe in helping another woman who is suffering. And what we learn in this is that there is something deeper going on with Wilhelmina, and it's not explicitly stated out loud, but it is very heavily implied that Wilhelmina's father had been molesting her. Now, in an earlier data page, we learned that Wilhelmina and her father have not spoken in quite some time, and that Wilhelmina did inherit her mother's hotel fortune. This is where she gets all that money from, but we don't really know anything about her father. And her father, who I don't think we've ever gotten a name for him as a character, but they've always been thought of as being estranged from one another, and now we know why. All of that aside, this book really did a number on me because this was a major retcon, and some may or may not understand why this was such a major thing. But yeah, this basically proves that Lourdes Chantel, despite not even being the most powerful mutant ever, she had a lasting and powerful effect on the Hellfire Club, and more importantly, on Sebastian Shaw as a whole, and it's not even arguable. Her death, real or not, galvanized Sebastian Shaw into becoming the man who he is. Once again, a terrible individual. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button, and make sure to share this video all over the internet and with all your friends, so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to Marauders and Reign of X. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about Marauders number 22. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.